Okay, so we're gonna get started with our webinar today. And again, welcome everyone. I'm Linda Ercoli, and I'm the interim director of the UCLA Longevity Center. And today we have a very special webinar for you on what to eat to preserve and recover from COVID-related decline of, of brain functioning. So our speaker today is Dr. Zhaoping Li and also Dr. Anke Li. Now, Dr. Li is the Linda and Stuart Resnick Endowed Chair in Human Nutrition, and she is the Professor in Chief of the Division of Clinical Nutrition in the Department of Medicine at the David Geffen School of Medicine. She's also Chair of Medicine at the Greater Los Angeles VA and Director of the Multidisciplinary UCLA Center for Human Nutrition. Dr. Li received her research training in calcium cycling and regulation in cardiomyocyte cell physiology. Her research interests span both basic and clinical research in nutrition, obesity, cancer, and other age-related chronic diseases. She's been the principal investigator for over 100 NIH-funded, investigator-initiated, and industry-sponsored clinical trials in the fields of food as medicine. And Dr. Li has published over 200 peer-reviewed scientific papers. Currently, Dr. Li and her team have also been focusing on developing effective tools to predict individual response and is the PI of a project to study this. Dr. Li has become a site PI as a clinical center in the Nutrition for Precision Health. And so we're very pleased to welcome her today to talk to you about COVID, long COVID. Also, I'm going to introduce Dr. Anke Li. She's a postdoctoral researcher at the UCLA Center for Human Nutrition, and her interests encompass nutrition and exercise lifestyle intervention aimed at improving cardiovascular health, metabolism, cognitive function, and mental health. So, everyone, welcome, and I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Li. So, Dr. Li, thank you for being here today, and please take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Ercoli, for the nice introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. My research interest in clinical practice is focused on food as medicine, how we can eat better for better brain health. And today, we're going to mostly focus on what to eat to preserve and recover from COVID-related decline of brain function. And this would be applicable to the time we're recovering from any major illnesses. And COVID is a virus really causing a systematic inflammation that impact on all our organ system, definitely include the brain. So to start, I wanted to say why we want to talk about food, why we're talking about how much we have control in ourselves. And we have had our times, particularly our generation, to blame our parents for the bad genes they gave us. The truth now is that 30% of who we are and our overall health that is related to the genetics we got from our parents, the DNA base pairs, and we get one, half from our mom, and then the other half from our dad. And the truth is, the 70%, that's most of a major portion of it, is actually controlled by ourselves. How we've been taking care of our body. When we're talking about the most important confounding factors in our control, in our environment, is nutrition and exercise. Out of that, and we would see nutrition roughly play a role in 70% and exercise another 30%. That is why we do research and we want to learn how we can eat well, exercise the best for our body, and live well and slow down aging and preserve our body function. And today we're going to focus on brain. And this is just one really kind of milestone study to truly demonstrate, how lifestyle would matter, nutrition would matter for aging process. Look at this two, bamboo. They are the same age. One is Cantor is 25, Oven is 26. And one is eating a more traditional diet for their natural living environment, pretty much, vegetable and plant-based. And the other one's having, Western diet, like what we consume, particularly in the last 100 years. As you can see, and by age, 26 and, 20 some years into their life, and those two looking drastically different, and with Oven looking much older compare to Cantor. If we're looking at their blood really markers, and that is, all the markers are showing more risk for chronic disease, and for Oven compare with the one living in nearly natural environment. This is not just a composition of what the diet they have, but also how much. And because of the calorie density is very low for Cantor, and he is consuming much less calories, as you can see here, only about 2,000 calories. On the other hand, Ovens consume 3,000 calories. So there's a significant difference, about 30%. This is the very beginning we start appreciate lifestyle nutrition would play a role. And all the dietary studies since the 1980s, when we first have developed the dietary guideline, has been pretty much focused on two things. Number one is the fat content, and number two is calorie. And the reason we have been advocating low-fat diet is because fat is same weight. Let's say we compare 1 pound of fat versus 1 pound of carb or 1 pound of protein, and the fat carries a lot more calories. And 1 gram fat carried 9 calories. Meanwhile, 1 gram carb or protein only carry 4. And this is where we looking at, like I just give you the example of the two animals, about importance of calorie. That is something we've been really focused on. And a little bit into detail, we recognize cholesterol is being seen in the plaques of our coronary arteries and also our carotid arteries. We go, okay, we should not have much of a cholesterol. Cholesterol is also a fat. That is, dominant belief since the early 1980s all the way to, 2000, and here's one Times Magazine cover in 2014. And then we recognize that is not necessarily true. It definitely does not help everyone with a low-fat diet. And there's the other 180-degree turn, and you hear a lot talk about, now low-carb diet, and fat is all good, and that's all for your good health. And this is really just argue, and what is a good low carb or low fat? It's based on energy balance. Are you really taking in no more than what you need? And now we looking at the fact, it does make us to think a lot. Looking at the food we produce in the United States, and this is the blue line, as you can see, from 1999 to 2018, we actually, really produce about the same amount of food and as to calorie per day. And look at the energy intake, what we're taking in, the red line stay pretty flat as well. So we are not necessarily eating more. I don't have a slide here, but activity level, no significant during this time as well. And what is striking is that in spite of we're not eating more, we're not exercise less, and we're seeing more and more people with obesity. As you can see, the dotted red line in the middle. So that really makes us think. If we just think about nutrition, talking about chronic disease risk, brain agent, just based on calorie balance, it is obviously very, very limited. One of the milestone study here, published in Lancet in 2017, is really pointed it out. Not just the calories, and the food quality really globally, not just the United States, 1 of 5 deaths is related to poor diet. Like the first one is diet with high sodium. That is not to say it's all the sodium.
I think we lost Dr. Li. Let's give her a minute to come back. Here she comes.
Again.
There you are.
Okay.
Yeah, you were breaking up
yes. Sorry about
you
that.
That's okay.
And so
Glad
we
you're back.
start to recognize dietary course when we see, diet with high sodium is bad. It's not just all sodium. It is also the food carry the sodium. That usually is processed food, hams and smoked food, canned food, all of that. So I don't want everyone to think just one ingredient. And now I'm going to start talking about carbohydrates, and that's the first one, macronutrient. As you can see, even whole grain food and fruit vegetables may not be all the same. And here, let me review how all life started on Earth. And start with the plants. And the plants grow with energy from the sun, and that's energy, water, and soil. And when the plant grow, though, they use carbon dioxide and release oxygen. The problem of oxygen is double-edged sword. We do need oxygen to live. That is the energy source, and we harvest it from the sun. But oxidation, meaning when we're using the oxygen, like we start a fire, and digestion is like a fire, let's just say, and we also are causing, damages and called oxidation, and that is the ultimate reason the cell die and the human being die, right? So oxidation, it is overusing the oxygen, and that is a double-edged sword the other side. So for the plant to survive themselves, each plant figure out a way how to use the oxygen or the energy, but not to be hurt. So they have different compounds to protect itself. And those happen to be the colors we see from fruit or vegetables. The purple, mostly from anthocyanidin or resveratrol. And that is the reason we drink red wine. And the yellow color, it is all flavonoid, and the orange usually is beta carotene, and so forth, so forth. And those colorful, nutrient is actually the predominant reason human being has color visions. The color vision we have is because we're on the top of the food chain, and during evolution, we learned we live longer, we'll survive, right? Become someone's, grandparents, have offsprings, and because we learn how to have a balanced diet, to have all those nutrients to come in to help a human being, human cells from oxidation. So that it is why we're talking about nutrition is important, why we're talking about and what to eat today for brain health. And the first example, it is a study we have done at our center some time ago. We actually have individual consume pomegranate and happen to grow in desert, like between here and San Francisco, the harsh growing condition, dry, drought, and day and night temperature change really make a pomegranate make a lot of special nutrients called tannins. And that is actually widely exist group of compounds, very large molecule, complex, we cannot absorb, and plants use it for their own protection, and then we eat them. So if we talk pomegranate, most of the tannins are in the host. And you can imagine that's what the fruit wanted to have it outside to protect the arrows, that's their seeds, for a new tree next year. When we have individual to drink one serving of pomegranate juice every day, and look at this after 4 weeks, when we do functional MRI, we ask individual to wear goggles to remember their road. We show them a picture where the bank, where the grocery, and where the home, and ask them to figure out the way to get there. So what we learned is that even just 4 weeks drinking pomegranate juice, it really helps us to improve our visual memory. Remember the picture and find the way from home to the bank, and much faster. And then we also did a longer study. Let's just see, instead of 4 weeks we did with a functional MRI, let's testing people's memory with the whole battery of testing. And Dr. Ercoli was a part of the study. We have individual now having, taking pomegranate juice, and 260 people participated for 12 months. And what we have seen is that in 12 months, if you are in a placebo, we have the same color and same sugar amount, you can see decline of memories, particularly the visual, remember picture. But the pomegranate juice group actually not only did not decline, but improved in 12 months. So that's a pomegranate. And the other class of plants widely existing and human beings have been using for more than 5,000 years are spices. And spices are really moved from Asia, east, to the Western New World via Silk Road. Actually, Silk Road is not really trade silk, but started with spices. We did a study at our center, have a medical student to consume burger patties. One burger patty is just salt. The other one, second time we have them testing is salt plus mixed spices we bought from the grocery store. And what we have found is that just simply adding the spices into burger patty, it actually decreased the inflammation and our body would produce when we digest the burger meat. Even this is red meat. So that is the time we start looking at, okay, let's try individual spices and how they can help us with our brain function. One of them we tested first was curcumin. That is a curry, it existing in the curry powder. You see the golden color, mostly used in Indian cuisine. And again, we did a comprehensive memory testing. And you can see here in 18 months, we even did a longer time. And overall, and memory, it is preserved and improved. You see the line on the top and versus placebo. So curcumin as one of the spices had that effect. Now the question is, hey, what are the reasons? How did they do it, right? Why the plants we eat can help us? And one reason many of you familiar with as well is antioxidant. And so they are protecting the plants, protecting their own seeds, but we human beings consumed it and we're taking advantage of it. The table I'm showing you here is to show you, we're talking about antioxidant fruit. We think about berries, we think about, red wine. But truly, if we compare serving sizes, nobody gonna have spice by, whole cup, right? Let's just say 1 teaspoon. If you can think about cinnamon is one of the spice. Look at the reading, the unit, and it's called ORAC. It is almost 7,000, right? This is much more than blueberry half a cup is 4,800, and cranberry, is 4,700, and you're looking at strawberry is 3,000 range. So the point I'm trying to make is that plant-based and even spices, we use a small amount, all have very strong antioxidants capacities. It can produce significant effect to benefit our brain and other organs. The other potential mechanism, actually, it is with the help of our gut microbiome. Here I have a picture of our gut. And when I was in medical school, 80s, we were just taught gastrointestinal system. And gastro means stomach. Intestine, just the whole intestine, including small bowel and large bowels. And we do recognize, and large bowel, as highlighted here, looks different. And then the small bowel that is not, highlighted here. We know they just look at they have different structures. So we thought, okay, small bowel is the most important, large bowel just a storage place. And now we actually come to recognize, most likely, functionally speaking, small bowel and large bowel are two different organs. Small bowel's function is break down food, we call digestion, break down food to small molecules, single molecule or two connect together. We can absorb it into our blood and carry it to the rest of the body. What the function of large bowel actually is very different. Large bowel is where we have most of the gut microbiome, microbes, about 100 trillion of them, huge number of them. And the leftover, we use think large molecule, our small bowel cannot break it down, come to the large bowel. The bacteria then, quote, eat them, or we could say that digest those large compounds, and then make those large compounds become available to us. And during this process of bacteria working on the leftovers, together with the cells we have in the large bowels, and those three and become a network. It can really produce new compounds and impact our body drastically. And I'll give a few examples. And this is particularly related to brain function. We know serotonin is one of the key, and we call neurotransmitters, because it communicates between the neurons and actually decide what mood we're in. Happy, sad. The more we have, a happier, and less, and then we're more feeling depressed. And we used to think this is producing the central nervous system, right? But now we have recognized, and most of the serotonins are made by the cells we call neuroendocrine cells, meaning the cells in the larger bowel can secrete and molecules we call neuroendocrine cells. And those cells together with bacteria to make the serotonins. To make it even more interesting, what kind of food we eat actually can impact that process very differently. And in the study here, we recognize when we have, the snacks, mixed nut snacks we see at the grocery checkout. If you have that snacks versus a pure starch snacks, in this study we use pretzels, even they are same calories. And we see And if you have nuts, your blood serotonin levels are much, much higher. And you feel more full, you feel more satisfied after consumption. And how do we know this is from gut? Because we also measured how much serotonin it can be detected in the stool. So we also look at the bacteria in our gut that can have an impact on serotonin secretion. All of those evidence point to the one fact that is what kind of food we eat and impact on the gut microbiome and our own neuroendocrine cells and determines what level of our serotonin and we have, and then in turn and decide our mood. If we are in depressed mood, the brain function is suppressed. When we are in a happier mood, our brain function much better, much efficiently. So this is one example of how microbiome matters. And this slide actually is showing new work done at UCLA Microbiome Center. What now they have detected is that, the pain we feel from the stomach, it is actually very much directly from the nerve endings in the gut and the vagus nerve and sensing what's going on in the gut. So we truly have gut feelings. And those neurons directly have, their own process and to get the signal what is made by the bacteria and the food we eat, and also working with the immune system in the gut to harvest those signals. It does not have to be as we used to think. Everything have to come in blood first and then impact on our brain function or metabolism. And the new evidence is showing and the nerve endings from a vagus nerve can directly sensing what's going on in the gut without going through blood, directly send the signal to the brain. So this is very, very new. And what we eat play really a role. For example, if we have tryptophan, that's one amino acid. If we have food with high tryptophan levels, yeah, that probably help us to more likely to fall asleep easier and may help us calm down, may help us with anxiety. So more and more research are coming along and to really showing us, actually teaching us to learn about ourselves, how food we eat, and not just directly through the blood, but through the gut microbiome and through the ancient nerve system. The vagus nerves is one of the ancient nerve system we human beings have obtained. Um, Now looking back evolutionarily, and all the nerves started to align with the intestine because that's most of the food and coming in what human have interaction with our environment. With evolution and the brain is added on, moved forward. But the connection of the gut sensing the food and the connection with the brain has never changed. So this is also new for us to learn. And for example, the effect we have seen with spice, with curcumin, for example, and we have now evidence to demonstrate, and curcumin changes gut microbiome, and also make the microbiome and to produce new small molecules that get into our body and have impact on our brain function. So those are brand new research field to give us more evidence to support what we need to eat to take care of our brain and take care of our body. And those are, the bacteria changes after we gave mixed spices for 2 weeks, even that's just short time, and huge change of microbiome as we can show represented by different colors. And the third potential mechanism, it is also new, that is sugar is not just sugar. If we have sugar and table sugar put into water and drink, and that is one kind of reaction the body would have versus the sugar come in and in natural food. And I'll give one example here. In California, produce a lot of grapes, right? We decided, but grapes also have a lot of calories. And early years of my career, and I would have consult anybody come to me for weight loss and say, hey, listen, you better stop eating a lot of sugary fruit. Grapes is one of the examples. 10 grapes is almost 100 calories. And you got to watching out because of the high sugar content. But now we're looking at this question differently. And we end up having healthy individual and to take grapes equivalent to about 1.5 cups grapes. We made a powder for research purpose, just to be uniform, for 4 weeks. That is a lot of sugar. And it's about 180 calories extra every day. And predominantly the calories from sugar. And to our surprise, after 4 weeks, extra, 180 calories sugar, and people actually experience decrease of cholesterol. And typical thinking is that you have more calories and you're going to have more, at least, increase the calorie to lead to high cholesterol. We did not see that. In quite contrary, it is saying the decreased cholesterol with additional sugar intake. And we did further experiment looking into it. What we have found is that, you come in, you have sugar, all right. But, and the whole mixture of grapes, a decreased cholesterol synthesis by the liver. It's almost like the statins we're taking as the drug. It also decreases cholesterol's oxidation, but no really impact on cholesterol absorption. So this is really example to show natural food as a mixture, and they functioning and together. And its interaction with our body is much more complex. It's not one-to-one. Sugar is just, working the liver, and if you don't need it, it will become cholesterol. No, not that simple at all. Another example about calorie does not tell you everything. And a lot of us use sugar substitute and thinking, okay, I'm not getting the sugar, I'm not getting calories. But the most recent study in 2022 demonstrated 2 sugar substitute. One is saccharin, one is sucralose. Those are the 2 older ones, can cause diabetes in some individual. Not everyone, but some individual, if you use a sugar substitute, it actually can develop and glucose intolerance. And even they do not carry calories. And the effect, again, it is mediated through change of gut microbiome. So this is just the beginning of a new era. We understand more about food quality. To really summarize and what we should eat for carbohydrate or as a carbohydrate source, the best source is vegetables and fruit. They not only give you carbohydrate, they give you vitamins, minerals, fibers, and also those representing color compounds we call phytonutrients, and they also give us prebiotics. Prebiotics are food for our gut bacteria. So very, very important. So that's carbohydrate. How about protein? Protein, it is essential, the building block of our body. And there is one phenomena I need to remind everyone, that is the older we are, the less effective we can to digest the meat, digest the protein, and absorb the protein. I would have wanted to give everyone a recommendation about 1.2 to 1.7 grams of protein per kilogram body weight. How much is that? I think for most women, you're going to try to have about 15 to 20 grams of protein each meal. For men, will be 20 to 25. How much is that? About 3 ounces of meat and for 20 grams. So women can have a little bit less than 3 ounces. It's the size of a deck of a card. That's the 3 ounce. And men gonna need to have, deck of card and a half. And the good source of protein, if you are onward eating all kind of food, will be chicken, fish, turkey, eggs, or those protein powders, and give you concentrated protein with little sugar and fat. If you are vegetarian, and then the combination, it is the best. I'll give you why. Okay, all kind of a protein source, including soy, chickpea, quinoa, pistachio. You better have a mixed, because otherwise, and the benefit coming in to be a vegetarian or vegan will be compromised. And this is the main reason it is none of the plant-based protein would have all the building block we have, the amino acid. And I give 2 essential amino acid building blocks we need. One is lysine, one is methionine. As you can see, even soy, this one has all the amino acid we need, but the methionine is very low. And same thing if we look at oats, and then you see both methionine and lysine are low. So that is not going to meet our body's need. And the second warning I also want to say is that if you look at the protein grams on the label, the 4 grams, it is only the nitrogen in the products, is not necessarily protein. So just looking at the grams on the nutrition label is not enough. I would recommend natural food, and cereal is not a natural food. And the other warning coming in for plant-based protein source is that all of those food not only have protein, but also have a lot of carbohydrate, as you can see. And this is the ratio. If you have really plant-based and you got a lot of calories coming in, I'll give you a better picture to see. If you're gonna have meat, you only need 5 ounces, and that is enough. But if you have nuts and seeds as a protein source, you need about 30 ounces. That's a lot. If you look at legumes, lentils, then you need almost 34. And why you need that much? Because a lot of those foods predominantly is starch, and the protein is only a small part of it. And that is obviously something we need to keep in mind to get a high quality protein, meanwhile not over consume carbohydrate. And as to the fat, it is not as little as possible. Our brain in particular need fat and need good fat. And we know about olive oil. And now I also want to say tree nuts are a great source, and avocado is another example, and fat from the good fat called monounsaturated fatty acid. And the other one, also important, is called long chain fatty acid and omega-3s. And omega-3 does not have to come from a fish. Actually, in all the fish containing omega-3 is coming from algae. So you can directly have algae-derived omega-3, and vegetarian friendly. For those of you who wanted to have, seeds for as an omega-3 source, and that is not adequate. The plant-based is very short, the omega-3, and human being is not capable of making it long enough to have 22 carbons together for our brain to use. Actually, our brain uses the longest is called DHA with 24 carbons. So if you want to get enough good fat and omega-3, go for algae-based or fish-based. Avocado give you monounsaturated fatty acid. In spite of it has fat, it actually can decrease inflammation. This is a study we did for individual to have burger patty alone versus burger patty and a whole avocado. And we end up see with adding avocado, your blood fat is not going up, but your inflammation is going down. And during the pandemic, we studied 1,000 people. 500 of them have one avocado a day, every day for 6 months. We end up seeing those people not gaining weight, but have lowered cholesterol levels in spite of we gave them avocado, predominantly calorie from fat. This is just examples to tell you, don't just look at calories, look at also the what is the quality of a food. And when we have nutrition, that is not enough. We have to have a driver for our body to retain the nutrition we have put in our body. Activity is one of them. As you can see, from this study, even activity cannot prevent Alzheimer from happening, but it can delay up to 10, 15 years. And here's another study showing how fast you casually walk would really predict how, what's a chance for you to survive. And if you barely can make a step every second, your chance of, surviving is lower than cancer patient. So activity is really the driver for our body to better use the nutrition. Of course, we have to manage our stress. That's a talk of a different time. Sleep well and sleep at the right time. And, when sunrise, activity comes and time to eat. When sunset, we should, really stop eating, winding down for our body to relax. So this new science is called chrononutrition. So to summarize what I tried to deliver today for better brain, even recovering from COVID-related issues, have as much as vegetables and fruit, plant-based food as possible. Control starch, control fat intake, particularly animal fat, and of course trans fat. Give yourself enough lean protein and driving that home for your body to use with daily activity. And lastly, I want to transition to Dr. Ercoli Li to talk about we have active research to looking at natural food. In this study, we're studying walnuts and on how walnuts can help you recover your brain function. And part of the reason we're doing the research is the brown color as you see, and that's for almonds and walnuts. It has a lot of tannins in it. It's the same mechanism as we have brown bottles for medication that will help us to deal with the oxidation come from UV lights. Now, after this study, we're actually going to study a mixed spice, intake on memory as well. So, and if you're interested in helping us to learn this, learn the science to help all of us, please email us at uclanutrition@gmail.com. So, Anki, and I want you to say a few words, and then we'll open the floor for questions. Dr. Ercoli, any questions?
Yes, we have a lot of questions here. So let's start with, gosh, we have a few here that I want to get to right away. This is a very interesting question. What happens if a person doesn't get enough protein over time?
Aha, that actually is a very common question, and particularly when we're getting older. If you're not getting enough protein, I would recommend you taking supplements. And that is the protein powders or protein drinks. They're ready to drinks. If you look at online, there are products with 30 grams of protein, 1 carton with 1 gram fat, 1 gram sugar. This is a particularly designed to help the individual, particularly elderly, to get enough protein, or cancer patient and patient just recovering from major illness. If you're gonna do it at home, I would recommend you do whey protein if you are able to have it, because whey protein is almost like human breast milk, require minimal digestion and is very highly absorbed in the small bowels. You can buy 100% pure whey protein, put in water, or add to your milk. If you're a vegetarian, there are protein powders with coming from the protein come quite a few different sources to make sure you'll get enough amino acid like I talked about, so you wouldn't be lack of lysine or methionine. There are also ready to go drinks as well if you wanted to have that. And that is the first advice I would give everyone. The second would be every meal you eat, start with the protein first, and then follow with the vegetables and have rest of the carbohydrate and starch at the very last. I also want to say here, if any one of you listening to the seminar are all those weight loss shots, it becomes even more important. Be mindful with your protein intake. Otherwise, it can increase your aging process, from even you losing weight. The medication can have significant downside effect.
Thank you so much for that detailed answer. I think so many people, I know, Dr. Li, when I spoke to you, I discovered that I don't eat enough protein. So I think it's something that even if you think you are, I think people have to be much more aware of what they're taking in, and be more mindful of what they're eating, how much they're eating, etc.
Yes.
We had one individual ask us what ORAC stands for.
ORAX is just a unit to see, what is in the blood or in the food, and how much oxidation you can tolerate. So it's just a way of compare one food to the other. So you don't have to remember that in particular. We also have a biological one. For example, we measure individual how much you can tolerate the UV lights. We shine a little UV light to your forearm, making a tiny little red dots, a sunburn. And we can use that to see how your whole body antioxidants capability is. So we have used that method to clearly demonstrate when you're eating natural food, particularly vegetables and fruit, nuts and avocados, that can really help you to have a overall much stronger antioxidants capacity, and that can in turn to translate for better protection of your organs and your cells.
We have a question from Kent, who wants to know if you can talk more about chrononutrition. He said, I heard a body becomes more insulin resistant with late night meals.
Correct. So we all know biological clocks. We talking about that and thinking the biological clocks is in the hypothalamus in the brain. It's very ancient. That's what we learned during evolution, sunrise, sunset. Now we also recognized, and there's another clock called metabolic clock that is in the liver. And so when we're eating food and that clock get activated and the body geared up to digest food, prepare us for physical function, because that's always the need to perform. And then now more research also discovered actually each single cell has its own clock as well. And not to get into details, the two important things. Number one, and when all the cells are on the same time zone, our body functioning the best. If we are, synchronize ourselves and to the biological clock in the hypothalamus that take cue from the environment, from the sunlight, that is the best. So the two messages, one, it is, have all the cells on the same time zone. Don't eat, make the cells have to work. And second of all, is take the cues from the environment. That's the circadian rhythm. And that is the reason it becomes very important. You stop eating, 7 o'clock or 8. And on the other hand, if you eat 2 o'clock in the morning, and that would not allow your brain to rest and to reset to do maintenance, because your biological clock wants to sleep, but your metabolic clock is activated by you and by food intake. That would really not serve your body the best.
Okay, so no frosted flakes at at 2 in the morning, or at all, right? Because they are
right,
processed
and particularly no processed food. I consider cereal is an American, mostly consumed and artificial made and food. One of the food. The other one is white bread, right? So definitely don't go for that. In the morning, start the day not with cornflakes or Special K. Please start with eggs and your milk, and that would be much better off. And then your cornflakes with orange juice.
Okay. Gosh, we have more questions, I think, than we're going to be able to get to. I wanted to give Dr. Lei some time to talk about the study. So let's bring on, let me ask one more question and then we'll have Dr. Lei come on. Gosh, so many. Okay, so somebody mentioned that, what do you think about intermittent fasting?
Okay, that is a good question related to biological clock. Intermittent fasting, one thing for sure, it is a behavior tool to control overall food intake. The second question, whether intermittent fasting will reset your metabolism, help longevity, it is very much controversy. And I would say two things. Number one, intermittent fasting is not for everyone. Really depends on who you are. And second of all, the older we are, the less capable our body is to really do intermittent fasting. Particularly, we don't have a amino acid protein reservoir. The reservoir is essentially our muscles. If we go on prolonged fasting, and the pool of the amino acid only lasting about 3-4 hours. If we have first meal 8 o'clock in the morning and the second meal, let's just say, is about 12 hours after, and you will inevitably break down the muscles to meet your body's need, because there's a prioritization. We have to make sure the brain has enough, the heart has enough, and have different orders. The older we are, the less we are flexible. When we finally get to the protein, we can rebuild the muscles. And so with that have said, if we do fasting, not recover the muscle 100% every time, we end up losing muscle, and losing muscle is one of the hallmarks of aging. So that would not provide our body all positives. If you want to do it for any reason, come to see us. Let us help you figure it out.
I second that one. Definitely go see Dr. Li. I think people get a lot of well, let's talk about, you do precision medicine, and most of us are taking in our advice from what we read on the internet, from TV commercials, and some of our primary care doctors are not that well trained in nutrition. And so we walk around with the wrong impression of what we should be eating, that we're doing okay, that we should be on this diet or that diet. And it may not be the right prescription, so to speak, for us.
We are all
Right?
different, Dr.
Yeah,
Ercoli. You are
yeah.
absolutely right. That's why more and more doctors like myself, I'm internal medicine trained and board certified, but we taking nutrition as our specialty.
I want to ask Dr. Lay if she would like to come on and tell us a little bit about the long COVID study on the effects of walnuts. Dr. Lay, are you able to pop on?
Yes, can you hear me?
There you are. Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Dr. Li, for the wonderful presentation about all the nutrition knowledge. And we are investigating the effect of walnuts on how it can impact the long COVID symptoms. So we know that roughly 30% of having acute COVID infection, roughly 30% of the patients would develop into long COVID, which includes symptoms like brain fog, persistent fatigue, and as far as we know, there's more than like 200 symptoms that might be in long COVID. And as Dr. Li said before, that mixed nuts might have a potential effect in delaying cognitive decline. We believe that walnuts have the similar effects too. So we want to see if, but there's no study in long COVID participants. So if you or your family member or friends that have long COVID symptoms, we invite them to participate in our study to help us learn more about whether walnuts would help with long COVID symptoms.
Okay, thank you. And people can contact you here,
through the email.
Dr. Lay? Okay.
Through the email on the screen, uclanutrition@gmail.com. Send us an email and we will contact you shortly.
And we also blasted out a flyer, and we can do that again. If you email us at the Longevity Center, we can put you on our mailing list, and we promise not to try to sell you anything, but we will send you information on research studies that have to do with memory and well-being. So, and this is one of them. So feel free to reach out if you're not already on our email list, and we'll send you a flyer. I want to answer one more question. I mean, there's so many wonderful questions here. And somebody asked, as far as what are foods that are good for certain problems? Do we have any advice on incontinence? That's such a huge issue with people as they age. Dr. Li,
Sure.
do you have anything? Yeah.
Yes. So I would actually say two things. One, actually protein intake is important. So urinary incontinence have a lot to do with the pelvic muscles weakness. Just doing exercise, like Kegel exercise, without adequate protein support, it is less effective than you have enough protein. So that's number one. Number two, I think the question is trying to get what kind of superfood. And their food would help relax the bladder and not to really make it more frequent urine leak. And those are often with very strong antioxidants capacities. There are also special ones can relax the bladder, such as like beets. Beets, the purple color, it has that. There also can, some of them prevent infections, such as cranberry, and we all know of that. So if you, to do it yourself, the first thing I would recommend is to broaden the variety of different vegetables and fruit you would have, to testing out for you, your body, and after you get enough protein, what else can be supplemental to help you control those symptoms. Since we are all different, and that is the very first step to take. If after that, you're more than happy to come to see us, and our dietitian will try to help you as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Li and Anke Li, for being here today. I mean, I appreciate so much. This is such a wealth of information. We were not able to get to all of our questions, and I apologize for that. But we had some questions about, you know, what do you eat for certain conditions. And I'm going to just encourage you to reach out to Dr. Li. I'll be upfront with y'all. I had a consultation with Dr. Li not too long ago, and it was actually, my visit was inspired by attending one of your talks. So because I wanted to learn more about precision medicine and what I can do. Remember, eating was within your power, right? It's within your power to fix and control. And I think that's really important. We're not at the mercy of, you know, do I need to take this drug, that drug? Not that I'm saying one should, you know, you should disregard one for the other, but it just gives you empowerment and some control over your health and your life and lifestyle. So I encourage people, when you can, to get educated about proper nutrition. After all, like you said, Dr. Li, that was our original medicine.
Correct.
Before we ever had drugs, that was our original medicine.
Right. I would add to what Dr. Ercoli have just said, and food can also make your body better respond to medicine. This is not contradictory. So we now learned the effectiveness of many drugs, if not all, can be impacted by your diet and your lifestyle.
Great. Well, thank you so much again, Dr. Li, Anke Li. Thank you so much. Thank you to the Semel AV folks for walking us through today. And thank you to everyone at attending this webinar. It will be made online. It will be put online and available on demand. And please don't forget to follow our Longevity Center, get on our mailing list, and check us out about our other programs that we offer. So thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.